Welcome back to Talking Devils podcast, brought to you by talkingdevils.co.uk, your number one and favourite independent Manchester United podcast. I am your host, Keane, and as always, on this lovely Wednesday night at 9 p.m, joined by former Manchester United player Markus Neumayr. We're here to talk all things Manchester United. We're here to talk about the one and only Manchester Derby this coming Sunday. We're here to talk about all the ins and outs, so we can talk all the big heavy tactics as to how Ralf Rangnick can beat Pep Guardiola this Sunday. So guys, do smash like the video, hit that subscribe button. Absolutely buzzing for this podcast tonight. It's Manchester Derby week. Form goes out the window this week. You know yourself, it's Manchester Derby. We all love a good Derby game. So look, it's absolutely great to be here tonight. First of all, Markus, haven't seen you in 2 weeks. Hope all is well. How have you been keeping kind of the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, thank you, Keane. Thank you. Good evening to all of you guys. Busy weeks as I'm still the coach of FC Basel youth team. A lot of things to do. I'm doing my UEFA coach licenses, by the way, as well. Got 2 kids also. They are on holidays now, so there's a little bit more to do when they're not in school. Everybody who has kids knows about it. So yeah, a lot of things to do, and it keeps me up on the toes. And it's good.
That's good. It's good. And look, as always good, great to hear you doing your coaching and with Basel as well. As I said to you, like off camera a couple of weeks ago, they're like Basel's youth teams we've seen down the years, what players they produce. And it's great to see that you're working at a football club like that and getting, I suppose, getting your badges there as well. That's an absolutely invaluable experience.
Yeah, it is. It is a good place to learn and to experience your new job, because being a coach is. Everybody thinks after being a professional footballer it's quite easy being a coach, but I have to admit that it's not as easy as it looks maybe from the outside. So you have to take care about a lot of things which as a footballer obviously you don't have to do. And but I enjoy it a lot. I work with a lot of very talented and ambitious young players who want to improve, who want to prove themselves, who want to make their way up to the professional football career. And I'm happy, and I love it to guide them and to be on the sidelines for them.
Absolutely. And look, like I done coaching myself, obviously here in Ireland, and like there's no better feeling when you're on the sideline and when you get that win, and even the losses as well. Like the losses give you a kind of a learning experience as well from the sideline, different from when you played the game. So like coaching, there's that satisfying feeling, from being a coach.
Yeah, it is. It is different compared to the playing side. I'd say it feels a little bit different, but I just love being on the pitch. Smell the grass, see the ball moving, see people chasing the ball with tactics and with the idea, with all the hopes and dreams. It's something that makes me really nervous, and also a little bit of, how should I say, it keeps me sharp, to see football, and it keeps me lively every day. And every day when I'm on the pitch, I'm happy,
And I just have to ask you a question just before we kind of proceed into talking about the derby this weekend. Do you feel more nervous coaching on the side of the pitch pre-match, or do you feel nervous when you're playing?
Yeah.
What more nervous are you, coaching or as a player?
Much more nervous as a coach, I'll have to say. Maybe also because it's a new part for me, as I'm just a learner and not a professional, I would say. But on the pitch, you have more the feeling that you can influence more the things than being on the sideline. On the sideline, you're more, you're not, how should I say, you're not active, you feel like you're not in the driving seat, and that makes it completely different compared to being a footballer, because as a footballer, I was never nervous. Even when I played in the Asian Champions League quarterfinals in front of 110,000 people, I wasn't nervous. I was playing against Xavi, and obviously it was just a lot of fun, and I didn't feel the pressure. As a coach now, as I'm training the youth kids, I feel more pressure than even back then. It's crazy.
It's mad. Like, I think there's a different, I suppose, responsibility as a coach, because you have to set your team up tactically. You have to pick the right 11. You also you have to, I suppose, have that responsibility for decision making as well. So like, look, it's absolutely great to see that you're progressing in your coaching career. And like, look, as I said to you, like FC Basel, have a rich tradition of kind of the youth players and their kind of youth development. Like you're saying, you're doing your UEFA badges or FIFA badges right now. Like to do that experience there, like that's invaluable. And as
Yeah,
you kind of get
yeah.
older in the role, like it's gonna stand you in a good stead.
That's true. That's true. And I love every minute of it.
100%. In terms of coaching, Ralf Rangnick is someone who you study quite heavy in your time playing in Germany, and obviously he's someone who has massive influence in German football, and he's someone who has come to Man United, and a lot of Manchester United fans are warming to Ralf Rangnick. He seems to be rubbing off on United fans. He seems to become kind of a very respectful figure already at Old Trafford, and he's made a kind of an impression in a couple of months. Ralf Rangnick this weekend, Marcus, has his biggest test in Pep Guardiola. Obviously the Manchester derby. We always talk tactics, and we always talk about his press, and we always talk about how he can set his teams up. But before we kind of deep dive into tactics, when you look at Pep Guardiola's style of football, kind of tiki-taka, great heavy possession-based football, and you look at Ralph's style of football, kind of game press. When you compare them two styles of football, and obviously both of them had influences in Germany, how can you compare them two styles of play?
I think they're very close. I think Pep tries more to keep the ball possession higher. That means like he wants the ball possession much more than Ralf Rangnick. Ralf Rangnick is a more the heavy metal kind of guy who wants to play always vertical passes. He wants to make the shot on goal very quickly. He doesn't want to have 6-7 square passes to keep the ball and to move the opponent. And that is a big difference between Guardiola and Ralf Rangnick. In common, they want to press very high. They want to win the ball very early. They want to dominate the game. But Ralf Rangnick tries to play more with pace and more with aggressiveness than Pep Guardiola does. And I think if you compare at the moment Ralf Rangnick to the team of Pep Guardiola, I think it's a little bit it is unfair at the moment because Guardiola in his first year, he wasn't as successful as he is now. I think he need 2 or 3 transfer windows so he picked his team and he got the players he wanted. And I think Ralf Rangnick should have been given the same time, not maybe as a coach, but more as a strategic advisor or whatever his position will be. But I think he will have a big influence on the club and on the team in the near future.
Yeah, 100%. And I seen there, just with regards to what Ralf Rangnick has talked to the football club, and Ralf Rangnick has advised the football club that Manchester United should take kind of the similar strategy that he had at Leipzig in terms of recruiting the young players. He wants United to kind of go down the route of buying more players to fit the system, not superstars, players who will fit kind of his philosophy and kind of help do a rebuild rather than buy the players who sell shirts. Pep kind of done that as well after the first couple of transfer windows. If you look, obviously, putting Raheem Sterling aside, if you look at some of the players Pep Guardiola brought in, Rodri wasn't a superstar. Laporte, not really a superstar. Walker, not really a superstar. Players like that, Pep brought him in to suit his system. Do you think the way Ralf Rangnick is kind of spoke to Man United now and in going into this consultancy role, and do you maybe think he's right in that sense that maybe Man United need to go down this kind of route similar to, like, in terms of having teams in place to kind of fit a certain system? Do you think we need to go down the route of buying kind of players who are going to suit the system, but also younger players as well who can buy into an idea?
Yeah, definitely. I think that the good thing about Ralf Rangnick or like a Pep Guardiola, they know what they want and they know where they want to go. They have a main idea how the team has to look like, what the players on each position, what they have to do, and what their ability has to be. And this is the most important thing. And therefore, I think it's very important that this strategic idea that Ralf Rangnick brought in now has to be supported for the next 3 or 4 years, as otherwise it doesn't make sense to bring somebody in like him, because it's a waste of time and it's a waste of money. I mean, we saw that in the past few years when they changed the coaches every 2 or 3 years, and it makes it difficult to build something up, because every coach and every sporting director has his own idea of playing football, on choosing players, on the system, on the way to approach a football game. And there are many different ways to approach a football game and to be successful. And therefore, I think that Ralf Rangnick needs to have at least 2-3 seasons to get his to see how he can transform this basic Man United team, which it was maybe 1 or 2 years ago, into a winning mentality monster like it should have been. And Ralf Rangnick proved that he can do it, and he did it with other teams. Everybody knows it, and therefore I hope that he finds the right guy, the right coach, and therefore also the right players.
Yeah, and I think it as well, like for us to kind of build an identity, and you kind of look at, the way he recruited players at Leipzig, though obviously the likes of Naby Keita, Roberto Firmino, though players like that who come from that kind of spot. In terms of players like Erling Haaland was kind of an unknown quantity, and Ralph, obviously recognized who he was too. Do you think in that regard, like Man United's scouting network needs to go more, I suppose, with a more continental approach in terms of scouring across Europe to try and find them best kind of, not even such youth players, but also players kind of in the bracket of, let's say, 20 to kind of 24. Players in kind of that age range who are going to be good to develop in the starting 11, but also to kind of maybe have that kind of value that they can develop in Man United, but also when it comes to their prime, that we kind of have that similar strategy.
No, I think the scouting system has always been brilliant at United. I think also to my time back then when I was there, they had a lot of scouts all over Europe, and one of the best ones I've met in my life, to be honest with you. I think it's more a problem, the difference, if you look back at the time back then, when you had players like Scholes, Keane, Giggs, Van Nistelrooy, Rio Ferdinand. You had a real mature axe, like 5, 6 players, very experienced players who know what they have to do on the pitch. And then if you put 3, 4 young players next to them, they can develop, they can gain experience. And the biggest problem United has at the moment, they don't have these experienced players. And if you put young players in now at the moment, like a Jadon Sancho, they feel a lot of pressure, because playing for United, obviously, is something completely different than playing for Leipzig or playing for Dortmund or for Borussia Mönchengladbach or whatever team it is. It's different because the shirt weighs a little bit more, and that makes the player feel not so free as they have been in the clubs before, and therefore the experienced players, the leaders need to be are very important. If they are not playing their role as they did back then, it's very difficult to get this progression of the players or likes of Ronaldo or Rooney. Back then, the spotlight was never on them. Just when they played a really good game, but before the game, nobody was talking about Rooney or Ronaldo. They were all talking about Scholes, Giggs, and Keane. And so if the main focus is not on you as a young player, it helps you a lot. And if you look at United now, the focus is on Rashford, the focus is on Jadon Sancho, and obviously now Ronaldo's there, but he's on the way down because he's very old. So there's a lot of pressure on the youth kids, and that doesn't make it easier for them to develop and to get that progress like they used to.
And do you think, like, obviously, I do agree in some respects, though, in terms of we need more probably experienced players to kind of bleed in kind of the youth, and I think maybe to kind of help them a bit quicker. But you look like a project of what like Arsenal are doing at the minute in terms of the way they're developing their youth players, and they seem to have a kind of a plan to go for this plan to maybe develop in 4 or 5 years. You maybe think Man United could adapt something similar.
Yeah, but but Arsenal, sorry to say, but Arsenal had that idea for the last 25 years, and I think they didn't win any big trophies in the last 25 years in England. As I'm just the when they had the greats of Vieira and Pires, but it wasn't because of their brilliant youth system. So you always have to see it a little bit different, and if you watch the youth system, United was always one of the best in all over England. And therefore, the main idea how to progress a young player has always been there. The scouts have been there. The facilities have been there. It's just a question of the first team to build that atmosphere again, to create space for young players where they can grow, where they can make mistakes, and where they have role models next to them. And at the moment, United misses a lot of role models. I'm not talking about experienced players. I'm talking about leaders. You don't have to be 35 to be a leader. You also can be 25 and be a great leader. And I think United is missing a little bit that at the moment for the young players to keep them more out of the light.
I think yeah. In some respects, I think some of these younger players we have probably haven't won enough trophies to maybe to be molded into them kind of leadership role. Like most football clubs, most successful football clubs this moment in time have leadership groups. Like you look at the likes of like Liverpool City, they're probably leadership groups. But I'd just say what Liverpool's one probably is. It's probably Van Dijk, Mo Salah, Henderson, and probably Alisson. That's probably their leadership group, and then maybe City's. Then you'd have your De Bruyne's, Gundawans, players like that, players who have won many trophies as well.
Creative minds, yeah. And United is a little bit looking now to get that mix. And at the moment, if you look at the team, you feel that something is missing or something is not correct. It's very difficult to say how or what is missing, but you feel that the picture is not 100% correct. You know what I mean. When you maybe if we have 3-4 changes in the summer, we bring new players in. Maybe the picture is a complete different and there's a different picture to it. And 70 or 80% of the players who are in the United team now are there in the summer as well, and they will play a complete different kind of football. And these 3-4 players, maybe they can have a big impact and can make a big difference in the end.
Yeah, 100%. Like. Obviously, looking into this weekend's game, Marcus, Manchester United in the last 4 or 5 years, in Pep Guardiola's time at Manchester City, he's yet to beat Man United at the Etihad Stadium. United seem to have a very good record going into this game. Now, a lot of talking points going into this game is how does Ralf kind of set Man United up to be competitive this Sunday? Now, we've seen in the last 2-3 seasons how Solskjaer went to the Etihad and how he set United up in a counter-attack system and how he played like a fluid front three of like Daniel James, Martial, Rashford, and it seemed to be a very good kind of balance up there to kind of help us win games at the Etihad Stadium. Yeah. Obviously, this is a full 360 now going into this weekend because Ralf Rangnick likes to have control in games. It's going to be hard to get that at the Etihad Stadium. You'd imagine United are probably going to have 40 or 30% possession this weekend. Yeah. When you look at how we've got success in the past against Manchester City compared to the style of football we're playing now, how do you think Manchester United should set up, and what way do you think Ralf Rangnick should approach this game on Sunday?
If you watch the teams like Manchester City or teams in general from Pep Guardiola, they're always having problems when they have not the ball. As easy as it is, if they don't have the ball, they're suffering. I remember a few years ago when I was talking to Gerrard, to Piqué, and they were having some bad times even with Guardiola, and he said, listen, if we don't have the ball, we are suffering badly. And this is the opposite side of the Guardiola game, because they're used so much to have the ball and to be dominant and to be up. And you saw that against Tottenham, you saw in the game that they are also very fragile. If you hit them on the counterattacks and you play a very high intensity football, even in the middle zone, it doesn't have to be always in the attacking third. You also can be in the middle zone, where you can have a good pressing. And if you win the ball there and you have a fast transition, which is one of the most influential things that Ralf Rangnick will bring into the team. If they can put that things onto the pitch, I think they will have a good chance to get some points there, because that's exactly where the problems of the Guardiola system are. If you hit them very fast with counter attacks, and you press them all the time very high, and you don't get them the possession they need to keep to get their recovery again, then they're suffering, you know.
Yeah, and I think, look, when you look at the last 2 or 3 seasons that we had this system, McTominay and Fred have actually been very. I know they're not every Man United fan's cup of tea, but them two have been very good in terms of helping United win the turnovers in the field on Sunday. Do you maybe think, obviously, Ralph has gone with a midfield three of McTominay, Pogba, Bruno recently. Do you maybe think Ralph maybe look at the way City play on Sunday, and he maybe look to revert back to maybe McTominay and Fred in midfield just because of the quick turnovers and what they can do in terms of winning the ball?
I think also he will put fresh legs. I think he will put young, fresh legs on. I don't think that he will play with Bruno and with Ronaldo. I don't see that, because, as I told you in the previous podcast, I think that Ralf Rangnick is a very big fan of covering space and covering meters with a lot of intensity. And if you play with Ronaldo and with Bruno, you're lacking a lot of ground there. And I think he knows if he doesn't get any pressure up high in the field against the back four or the back three or the back five of City, whatever system they're going to play, then they're going to be suffering, because in midfield it's very hard to get close to the players of De Bruyne or even Grealish, who seems to be in a good form right now.
Yeah, I think we've, especially Bernardo Silva as well. He's been flying under the radar this season as one of the best midfielders in the league and in Europe this year. But you're absolutely right. I think, as much as I love Cristiano, I think this is a game that isn't for him on Sunday. Now, maybe off the bench, if City start tiring out after relentless pressure, then maybe bring him on. But if I look at this weekend, I'm looking at how United have got success in the last couple of years, and I'm looking at how we've got there and we've got results. Obviously, Martial isn't here at the moment, so he's obviously, and that's a non-starter. We can't put him up front. But for me, I'd probably look at maybe playing Bruno as a false nine, like we did against Chelsea earlier on this season.
Yeah.
He is pressed in the front. I think if you're looking at pressurizing this team, playing with a press and from the front, I think you have to look at maybe a front three of maybe Bruno, Elanga, and Sancho. Because if you look at, like, Rashford's out of form, he's not pressing as much. Sancho is pressing, and Elanga's work rate against Atletico Madrid was outstanding. I think Elanga is very important.
Yeah. And I think for Ronaldo, it's also fine. I mean, he's 36 now. I mean, it's he's not the player that he used to be. You know, we remember him at United playing at the wing, taking on people, winning ones against ones. Gaining superiority in the pitch. You know, he always had one man more in offensive, because he was taking on people for fun. You know, he was so quick, he was so sharp, and he translated into a different kind of player. And it's very, very difficult to play the style of Ralf Rangnick with Bruno and with Cristiano together in one side, especially against a team with City who's so good on the ball. And I think it's the logical choice, I think.
Yeah, I think that's probably where a lot of United fans are saying that this week is that's probably your best front three to go with. Or even like Bruno drops in and you play Sancho and Elanga is here too. You know, and then you back out your midfield. I think that's maybe a way to go. But the only thing I'd say about this is Paul Pogba. Like, he's played well at the Etihad before. Pogba's played very well against Guardiola's sides and transitioning the ball quickly. That may be something Pogba can do, and he's been playing well the last couple of weeks. It's going to be very interesting, Marcus, to see what system Ralph goes with, because he has played the 4-2-2-2. Will he go back to that to maybe kind of try press Man City?
I also like Pogba in the recent weeks. I like his energy, I like his mentality, I like his body language. I mean, we've seen Paul also in a different shape before, and I think every United fan is very happy to see him in this way. And I think it's a little bit of I think he plays for himself now, as he knows that maybe the summer market is going to be crucial for him. You know, he had a lot of injuries. he didn't perform he used to. So I think he's using this at the moment, being in the mirror, being in the window for a lot of other people to watch him, and he does it in a very good way. And for United, it's also good. And the question is if it makes sense to have a player like him in the future, because he has a very big mind, he has a big attitude, which is not always easy to handle, And I think at the moment you have a lot of players who are different to are similar to him, And I think he can make the difference against City because he has everything that the player needs to have, and hopefully he's going to show his best side. And if he does, I think he's going to be one of the best players for United on the weekend for sure.
Yeah, and I think if you look at like his overall strength, his physical presence, I think that may be one way of helping negating City's kind of, control in midfield. Now, people can talk about maybe the defensive side of his game. Sometimes he can be a bit erratic, but I look at this and say if you have McTominay and Fred in there to cover them spaces, and you give Pogba kind of more freedom to kind of break forward on the transition.
You always have pros and cons for every player, So I mean, there are always good things about a player. Even if you talk about Messi, one of the best footballers in the past, 50, 100 years. If you talk about his defensive side, I mean, you cannot even say that there is a defensive side because he just doesn't run back, So, I mean, for every player, there's always a negative side to it. But that's also my point as a coach. I always want to see the positives of a player and put the positives together to build a big group, And everybody knows the strengths of the other one and also the weaknesses. And like this, you can cut them off. And I think also if you, like you said before, if you give Paul a run in the middle of the park with McTominay and with Fred, I think it's a good mixture. Yeah.
I think that could be the way we can help unlock City this weekend, because I think if you put, let's say, McTominay and Fred as the two main sitters, and then you had, let's say, Pogba in there, Bruno in there as well, then you have two boys in there.
Physical presence against this side because they're so good in possession. You need to be aggressive. You need to be on your toes. You need to be there all the 95 minutes. You need to push them. You need to be also a little bit dirty. It's a derby. It's always special. There's always something more to it than a normal game, and also for the players, you feel it, and that's what the fans want to see on the pitch on the weekend. Yeah,
100%. I think this is a game where, look, form goes out the window, Marcus. Look, we all clearly know at this point that like Man City are the best team in the league, and like, look, it pains me to say, but I'd argue in Europe at the minute, like they are playing fantastic football. Pep Guardiola, like, every season his teams seem to evolve. They always seem to kind of go that level up. It kind of is bad. I hate to say it, but it reminds me of Sir Alex, how Sir Alex's teams used to always progress year on year. Guardiola is doing that in England now. He's starting to slowly but surely grasp English football, and Man City seem to break away from everyone else. Probably bar the exception Liverpool. Liverpool are trying to catch them, but City seem to be kind of almost doing what Sir Alex did in the early 2000s in terms of getting a stranglehold of the league and winning consistent league titles and winning trophy after trophy. Like, I think Guardiola is doing fantastically well in.
Yeah, and what he also does well, he freshes the team up every 6 months with new players, with new inputs, and every player he brings in, he's performing. It's amazing. So that also is a big plus for him. And as you said, he reminds me also of the time of Sir Alex, because every player that he signed worked back then. There was maybe one or two players where you say, okay, maybe you could talk about Veron that he didn't perform well, but even Seba, he had some great games with United. So it's not like we're talking about a player who didn't perform at all. It was just not up to the level that you expected, but he was okay with the team. It was very difficult for him to sit to find his place in a team where Keane and Scholes were ruling everything.
Yeah, look, that's one of them ones you'd always look back and say that was a shame, because you look at Keane, you look at Scholes, like, it's hard to.
There was no space for him. They didn't let him any space. But that's normal. I would have done the same if I was Keane or Scholes, because it was there. They were at the peak of the football career, and and Sebald just didn't fit in that system, in a classical 4-4-2 with two classical strikers. It was just not meant to be, and maybe Ferguson just took him just to keep Keane and Scholesy on the front foot, You never know.
Yeah, he's one of them. You always look at it. Fergie always had his ways of kind of, freshening things up and getting people to be on
To
their
get the
toes.
best out of each player, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And Guardiola seems to know what he has to do with his players as well.
And it's mad he's doing it all right now without a striker. Like, he's literally doing it all without a striker. It's absolutely like...
Yeah, but it always has been this way. It's crazy to say, but he never, even when Zlatan was there, he never really wanted him because he wants to play he wants to move a lot. He doesn't want to stick to positions. So he wants players to move, like Eto'o, Also, Eto'o was also a player. He never stick to his number 9 position. He always moved around in the pitch. So it's very difficult for the opponent to get hold of you, because they're not the players like Ruud, always he will be there first post or he will make his runs there. In nowadays, it's the level, the physical, the presence of the players is much higher than 10, 15 years ago. So it's more difficult to defend these kind of players who move a lot and who are not sticking to their positions. And that is the typical Pep style football,
It is. And like, you look at the moment, he's playing Phil Foden as a false 9.
Yeah.
He's doing very well there at the moment. I think if you look at like things like Foden, Bernardo, Kevin De Bruyne, they're all like playing that role. And you see the way he wanted to buy Harry Kane from Spurs, and the way Kane kind of drops in deep and links up the play. Do you maybe think Kane would have done well in that system if they got him?
I'm not a big fan of him, to be honest. I see that he's working for Tottenham, but I don't see him somewhere else. I don't know why, but
is he another Alan? Do you think he's another Alan Shearer? Like, he stays at that one club, like, kind of type of thing.
Yeah. I think so. It goes into that direction. I'm not saying that he goes to United or City and he won't score at all, but I don't see him having that impact in a club like City or United, like he has at Tottenham at the moment. I don't know why. It's just a feeling.
Just one of them things, like a one club man. Like, he's just one of them. It's just one club man, and like, look, fair
maybe
play.
he proves us wrong. Maybe he goes there in the summer and
maybe he comes to United, replaces Ronaldo, and brings us the league. You never know.
Yeah, but like not Ralf Rangnick and not even Guardiola like them kind of players. I think therefore it's always difficult. Like you saw with Zlatan back in the time, he was having problems because he doesn't like a big target player up front. He doesn't like it.
Yeah, and look, it just depends. Like, for me, I think Kane would suit us, like the way he plays, how he links play.
No question about that, about his quality. But the question I'm asking is, does he fit in the Manchester area? Do people really fall in love with him? Do people like him? You know what I mean? Because he needs that. He's a kind of player who needs support, who needs a lot of confidence. I mean, we saw it at Tottenham when he fell out with them. I think he couldn't even touch the ball at that time because he had such a self-confidence problem. He didn't score a goal. I don't know how long, but for 20 games he didn't hit the target. It was. I remember that time, and he needs that confidence. He needs that love of the fans. He needs that support, and I'm not sure if he gets it at United. I'm not sure about it.
It'd be something that we may discuss, Marcus, come the summer, because I dare to say if Maurizio Pochettino walks in the door, we're going to be linked with him. It's just going to happen. We all know that's going to be the first player Man United are going to be linked with if we get Pochettino.
Could be. Yeah. Could be. And like you said, the coach is important. If the coach supports him, maybe it works, but we will see.
We will see. And this is definitely a conversation I know we're coming back to in the summer. 100%. But kind of still touching on Sunday. Last Saturday, we played against Watford in the Premier League. Now, we drew 0-0. By many accounts, look, we didn't take our chances. And look, that's absolutely fair enough. But when you looked at our centre-back pairing last weekend, Marcus, Lindelof and Varane, many Man United fans have been calling for that to be the centre-back pairing. They seem to be playing very well as a unit. Obviously, Harry Maguire is our captain. He's someone who's obviously always on the fringes of starting. And, he's someone who obviously comes with that big price tag of £80 million. when you look at the centre-back pair and you look at the way Man City play in terms of their high press and pressure, do you maybe think it's this week to start maybe Lindelof and Varane, or do you think can Harry Maguire cope with the pressure of playing against Manchester City?
I would also start as a coach with Lindelof and with Maguire. They did a great job against last weekend. And with Maguire, there's something that it's difficult to name it, but he always since he has been at the clubs, he always had a good period and he had a bad period, but he was never, of a player like him. You expect to be the leader every time, week in, week out, and you don't get that from him, And he himself, he describes him as a leader, as a captain. And I think that there's missing something, and I think it's also United fans are very sensitive, and I think they sense that as well. There's something missing, and therefore they don't have that bond with him yet. And it's a shame because I really like him from his stature, from his way he's playing. He has a lot of good abilities, but it's. I like Lindelof and Varane as well at the moment. To be honest with you, I would.
Do you think their styles, like Lindelof and Varane styles, that they complement each other more?
Yeah, because Lindelof is very aggressive. He always sticks with his man, and Maguire is always the guy who always sits a little bit backwards, like typical Varane. And I think they're too similar in this perspective. And the best centre back duos has always been one guy who's very close, who always presses the guy, and the other guy who's controlling everything. If you talk about Piqué and Puyol, or if you talk about Costa Curta and Maldini, if you talk about all the good, perfect centre backs of Vidic, Ferdinand, it was perfect. Yeah. Vidic, very aggressive on the man every time, always went into the 1-against-1, never missed the ball. He was there, and Ferdinand playing with his eye, very, very intelligent, closing the gaps behind. It was perfect, And I think with Lindelof and Varane, I think it fits more at the moment.
Yeah, I think if you look at the way Lindelof is kind of more the aggressive, he's more of a ball carrier. His passing is very good for a centre back. His distribution is quite good. If you look at the way he steps out from the back four, though he always puts the ball into a Bruno, and we always kind of transition quickly. I think if you look at a player who's going to take the ball under pressure and be able to deal with City's press, I think Lindelof will be that. I think Varane, he has the recovery pace then to cover him if he does lose the ball. Whereas when Maguire's there, the recovery pace isn't really there. And I think that's what you need. You mentioned Vidic and Ferdinand. That's what was great if Vidic lost the ball, though Rio had that recovery pace to win the ball back. And then obviously Joe had the football and nous to be able to play the ball out from the back. So you're absolutely right. I think that's probably our best centre-back pairing at the minute in terms of to be able to play the ball out from the back, but then also you've Raphael Varane's experience, especially in this big game. I think Varane's experience is going to be crucial because I think
it is.
Maguire's a good player, but Varane has that big game experience.
Yeah. He keeps very smooth. He keeps very quiet. He knows what he's doing. You have that feeling that he seems in control over the whole situation at any point, And with Maguire, you don't have that. You always have that feeling there's something, like something can happen. And with Lindelof and with Varane, you don't have that at the moment.
Yeah, and do you notice as well? I think the fullbacks seem to be a bit more settled to go forward when they play. When it's
of course, because you feel more comfortable. If you know that these two behind you, they have everything under control, you're gonna make your runs forward, because you always get back in no time and it's no problem, and you have that confidence. And if you don't have that confidence, you feel like you're exposed behind you, the space every time, and nobody covers you. Then you don't make them runs, and then you cannot make an overlap on the side. You cannot play superiority on the sides. It's very difficult then,
Yeah, and I think if you look at the way, like especially on the weekend, I know we didn't win, and we talked about how many chances we missed. But one thing I did notice on Saturday is when Lindelof or Varane had the ball, Alex Telles was pushing up that bit more. Wan-Bissaka was pushing up that bit more because they weren't worried about the concern of when Maguire would lose the ball, we'd be caught. And I think when you have them two centre backs who can push up that bit more, who have the recovery pace, I think you see. I think Wan-Bissaka will start on Sunday because he always plays well against Raheem Sterling. He always seems to mark him out of the game. So I think it's one of them battles when you have his number. I think Wan-Bissaka will be a crucial player. On Sunday. And I think as well, Alex Telles needs to play, because one thing I think Luke Shaw at the minute, I think he's just lacking confidence at the moment. And you look at the way Alex Telles played against Atletico Madrid, you look at the way he played on Saturday. I think if we need to score, if we need to be good in the counter-attack and to obviously have good delivery from our counter-attacks and our crossing, Alex Telles has to play all day for me.
Yeah, his deliveries are outstanding. Also with free kicks and corner kicks, spot on. I mean, he reminds me always of the time at Beckham. I know it's a little bit of a big comparison, but the way he whips in the balls with that whip, it's always dangerous. And I like that, and therefore I would choose him always before anyone, because in nowadays the dead ball situations, I think there's a statistic that in the Premier League 30% of the goals are created out of a dead ball situation. So that means it's a very big phase in part of football, and you need to take care about it, because on one side you're gonna score, but on the other side you need to defend it. But if you have a player like Alex Telles, I would put him on every game.
Yeah, 100%. I think if I look at the way Luke Shaw's been lacking confidence in these last 2-3 months, I think that he needs time out of team, because he's played a lot of football.
Yeah, he did. In November, December, he was brilliant. He had a really good period, and then in January, or you could see it that he seems tired. He's lacking passes. He didn't have his runs anymore like he had before, And yeah, and it's great to have somebody like Alex Telles, who's such big abilities in dead ball situations. It's crucial for a team like United. If you can win against a team like Wolves with 1-0, if it gives you 2 points more, and then you're suddenly in a different situation, and the whole discussion about signing new players will be more relaxed and everything. And this helps the club also at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, look, again, we need to, if for Man United to want to play this controlling system in terms of making chances, creating chances, Telles needs to be part of that. Because I think we have a very productive player there in Bruno, who creates a lot of chances.
Yeah.
Bruno can't do it all. For me, he can't. He's a great player, but you can't have all the onus to be on Bruno.
He wants to, but I think even for him, it's impossible.
Yeah, 100%. Marcus, before we touch on our final topic, I'd just like to get, in terms of what you think would be the ideal 11 for United to start on Sunday. For you, what way do you think Ralf should approach this? So first of all, give me your starting 11 and formation too. What you would choose if you were Ralf on Sunday.
I would stick with the classical 4-3-3, like we said, with Alex Telles and Wan-Bissaka as wingbacks, as fullbacks with Lindelof, and with Varane centre backs, McTominay, Fred, Pogba set in the middle of the park, Bruno as a false nine, or Ronaldo, one of them two. And then you play on the wings with Jadon and with Elanga. I think this is a good team, and I think also with that team you can get intensity on the pitch, which you need against a team of Guardiola, who's very keen on possession, on dominating the game. And if you want to hurt them, you just have to watch the game against Tottenham. Then you see what is needed.
Yeah, 100%. And you have the exact same, you picked the exact same 11 I actually have wrote down here. That's the exact same 11 I have. I had David De Gea obviously in the nets, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. Sorry.
Yeah,
but he's been there for such a long time. I didn't even mention him anymore,
that goes without saying. And I think, look, if you're talking about intensity, if you're talking about winning the ball back quickly, and if you talk about transitioning that ball quickly, if you put Tomley and Fred there and you let Pogba do the job, and Bruno falls 9, you're absolutely right. I think, then you have obviously Sancho and Langa to do that. Obviously, get in behind.
You need intensity, you need emotions. It's a derby, and when I think back at my time when I was there, emotions are a big part of this game. And it is different compared to others, and everybody will say it's just a game for 3 points. It's not true, because you feel it. There's a little bit of tension, and you feel the pressure of the fans, and you need to find that 11 who can give you that extra bit of emotions and intensity. And I think with that starting 11, you have a good chance that you can get a good output of it.
Yeah, and it is something else as well. I think if you can win the ball back quickly and you get the fullbacks going, then Lindelof and Varane can hold the fort.
Yeah.
Then look on paper.
Yeah, and if there's one thing they don't like to do, and it's to defend Sterling or Grealish or De Bruyne more, but the other two, they don't like to defend. And if you have players like Alex or like Telles, like Wan-Bissaka, perfect. You just need to put them into the position so they can make them runs. They have to feel confident, but that's part of the coach and part of the players on the pitch to get them moving.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see, because I always like that Wan-Bissaka versus Sterling battle. I always like watching it, because Wan-Bissaka's recovery runs against him are always quite good. Marcus, we touched just kind of off topic off the derby. We touched on just the UEFA Youth League game that happened a couple of days ago. Yesterday, sorry. And obviously Man United went down penalties against Borussia Dortmund.
Yeah.
We were talking about Hannibal, because he seems to be on the cusp between the 23s and the first team at the moment. And he had a kind of a fantastic performance last night. A lot of Man United fans have been raving about him, and the current people at the club speaking really high about Hannibal. When you look at players like Juan Mata potentially leaving in the summer, and you look at maybe United looking to maybe go out and buy that box-to-box kind of midfield player, do you maybe think United can maybe look at Hannibal and maybe say he is one for the future?
Yeah, I think so. With Ralf Rangnick being in charge, or having a similar coach who wants to develop young players, who wants to give young players a chance, I think it's a good moment to keep him at the club, to give him confidence, to show him trust, because it's always one thing to keep a player, and the other thing is to give him minutes, because being at a club or staying at a club, I experienced it as well. Staying there and putting you out on loan. I mean, for many players, it didn't work out. If you talk about Piqué or Rossi, they've been sent out on loan, and when they came back, they were basically in the same situation. So I'm not a big fan of it. But every situation, every player is different. With Hannibal, I would say it doesn't make sense to put him out on loan, as he's already very mature in the way he plays, the way he behaves as a human being. I think you need to throw him into that deep sea and let him swim himself, and to help him, to adjust him, to put players alongside him who can put his game or level his game up, because I think he has it all, and he just needs the club to support him and the manager to support him.
100%. And you said throw him into like the deep sea and let him grow. Do you maybe think, if you said have him around kind of players to help develop his game, do you maybe think like he can maybe look at a Paul Pogba or a Bruno Fernandes, players who played that similar position, and maybe they can be his kind of role models at the club?
Exactly. And you watch how they play in training day in, day out. You see what they do. You see what they do outside of the pitch. It also has a very big impact on players. I experienced that myself. And these are very crucial things for a young player to see and to experience that every day, because it makes you even better without knowing. I mean, I saw so many training sessions of Scholzi, how he was training at such a high level, and it impressed me. And even in nowadays, when I think back, it gives me goosebumps, because it's not normal. At that time, I thought it was normal, but afterwards, I didn't see it that anymore, because he was training at such a high level and demanding so much from himself. It was amazing to see, and it was also good for me to grow as a person, not always as a footballer, but also as a human being. And this is also very important, even though maybe I didn't really realize it at that point, but a few years later, if you watch back, then you think back and you see that, you realize that it had an impact on you.
Yeah, and I think that's where, if he gets brought, like, he's already in around the squad anyway, because he's been in the couple of match day squads in the last kind of month or so. But I think when you look at this kind of run we have, maybe it is a time to maybe throw him on in a game. Maybe give him that half an hour. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I
maybe
mean,
give
at
him
the
that.
moment he has one of the best coaches for young players. I mean, if you think back about 20, 25 years ago, it was very difficult to get in a team anyway. You know, even in England or even in the Bundesliga, as the experienced players were very important. And in nowadays, you have coaches like Ralf Rangnick, like Thomas Tuchel, like Jürgen Klopp. They're always looking for young players with very high intensity in their game, and they support them. They give them confidence. They give them a run out, and they can prove themselves. I mean, at my time when I was there, I would love to have a run out and prove myself, because I think maybe I would have had a bigger chance, but I didn't get it. You know, so for young players in nowadays, I think it's much more easier, even at United, with Ralf Rangnick being in charge, because he loves young players who have a good heart and have a good and intensity, and they want to make it. I think it's a very good chance for him to stay there.
100%. If you look at what Alanga's doing under Ralph right now, like, that
Yeah,
should speak
and
volumes.
that comes because he feels the support of the coach and the support of the teammates. And then you're playing maybe one or two steps higher than you normally do. But that's what a club of United is about, to push young players into a situation where they never experience, where they never thought they're gonna be. Like if you thought about the likes of Scholes or Giggs or Beckham or Bott or even Gary Neville. I think if you ask Gary Neville 17, if you make a career like this, he wouldn't believe it. He would have laughed at himself. And no way. But there you see what is possible if somebody believes in you and gives you the trust and gives you time to grow. And this is very crucial for young players at this age.
It absolutely is. And I think it's all about giving you a chance. Like, you look at the way Pep gave Phil Foden a chance. Look the way Frank Lampard gave Mason Mount a chance. Arteta giving Emile Smith Rowe a chance. Like, you look at them. That's the
Guardiola gave Piqué a chance at that time. Remember that?
well, yeah. Like, remember PK was behind Ferdinand Vidic, goes to Barcelona, and
Yeah.
Guardiola gave him the chance.
Yeah, and he won everything that he could. Yeah, and that's football. Sometimes you just need to support people and trust in them. Yeah.
I think you just need to kind of get that lucky break. You need to get that break. You need to be given that chance to show what you can do.
Yeah.
Like, and even United, I think of all clubs should know that. Class 92, then you look at Marcus Rashford, you look at players, McTominay, players like that who we have brought in the past, who have been young players, who have come in and made an impact. So Hannibal can definitely be that one for me.
Exactly. I see the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, and look, for me, I'm saying my girlfriend's a massive Man United fan. She loves Juan Mata, but I've said to her, like, look, nice guy, brilliant football brain, brilliant player. But I think right now is probably the time for Hannibal to get the number 8 shirt. I just said that, like, and she might kill me for saying this now live on the podcast if she's listening.
It wouldn't have worked out if she was a City fan, right?
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. But yeah, like, look, I think when Juan Mata does leave the club at the end of the season, I think there's your natural successor. Like, you don't have to go out and spend 30, 40 million for a player to be on the bench. You have
trust in him, give him time, and I think you're gonna do much things wrong. I think.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just saying this as well. Give him the number 8. Leave Bruno, keep the 18 because that number suits him more. I'm just gonna say that. Just gonna say that now. But looking in obviously to the weekend, massive game, and look, we all hope that we do get the result. What would be your score prediction for Sunday? I'm going to put you on the spot now, Marcus. Give us your prediction for Sunday's derby.
I hope that there will be the same result as for Tottenham against City. That we're gonna win 3-2 against City in a big crucial game, and we're gonna do a late winner for United like we always have been, and that would have been an amazing weekend. Yeah.
So a nice late winner. Do you know what? I'd love that. And everyone knows I'm always active on social media. I think I'd be very unbearable if we beat. I know we're 4th in the league, and I know we're like 20 points behind them, but I'd still be as unbearable if we do beat them on Sunday.
It's about the derby now, Manchester derby. It's different.
Right.
It's about the league table, all the points. You just want to win it. You play for glory. Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, it's one of them games where, look, you don't care about where you are in the table. You don't care about what's going on. For them 90 minutes, that's all that
Manchester
matters.
needs to be red. There's no doubt about it. Manchester needs to be red and not blue. Definitely.
Yeah, 100%. And on that note, Marcus, we're going to leave it at that because that's the best statement I've heard all night. On that note, guys, we're going to wrap it up there. Thanks very much, Marcus, for coming on again. It's been absolutely a pleasure being your presence here tonight. As always, guys, we'll be back this Friday with the podcast with Phil and Lee at 7 o'clock. So do check that out as well. And as always, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button as well. And just let you all know, guys, we will have a podcast on immediately after the match on Sunday around 6 o'clock. So do check that out as well. We have a new host on the channel on Sunday. I'll leave that be announced on our Twitter page. But until then, guys, thanks very much, everyone, for watching. And thanks again to Marcus for coming on. And we'll see you next Wednesday, guys.
Thank you, guys. You have a good night.